Okay, I need you to imagine something for a second. What if I told you that you could direct a cinematic masterpiece, complete with smooth camera movements, consistent characters, and professional-grade storytelling, with just a few clicks and some well-crafted text? I know, you're probably thinking, yeah right, every AI video tool promises that, and honestly, you'd be justified in that skepticism. We've all been burned by AI video generators that give us flickering nightmares, characters that morph into different people mid-scene, and camera work that looks like it was shot during an earthquake. But what you're watching right now, these aren't cherry-picked results from hundreds of attempts. This is Seedance 1.0, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's about to change everything we thought we knew about AI video generation. I'm talking about genuine cinematic control, multi-shot storytelling that actually makes sense, and quality that rivals traditional production workflows. So if you've been waiting for AI video to finally grow up and become a serious creative tool, this might be the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's be brutally honest about where AI video has been up until now. It's been frustrating as hell. You write a prompt for a simple scene, maybe a person walking down a street, and what do you get? A jittery mess where the person's face changes 3 times, the background warps like reality is melting, and the whole thing flickers like a broken TV from the 1980s. And don't even get me started on trying to create actual narrative content. Want to show the same character in 2 different shots? Good luck with that. The AI would generate a completely different person in the second clip, making any kind of storytelling basically impossible. Professional filmmaking techniques? The AI would just ignore half your directions and do whatever it felt like. It was like having access to this incredibly powerful technology that was simultaneously completely unreliable. You'd spend hours generating clips, hoping to get something usable, only to end up with a folder full of unusable footage that looked more like experimental art than actual video content. The whole process felt like playing the lottery. Sometimes you'd get lucky and generate something decent, but most of the time you just burn through credits and end up frustrated. This is exactly why so many content creators and filmmakers have been hesitant to take AI video seriously. The technology showed promise, but it wasn't ready for professional use. The gap between what was promised and what was delivered was just too big. But here's where Seedance 1.0 enters the picture, and why I'm genuinely excited about what ByteDance has built. Seedance 1.0 isn't just another AI video model throwing its hat in the ring. This comes from ByteDance's Seed research team. Yeah, the same company behind TikTok. And they launched this thing in June 2025 with some serious technical innovations that actually solve the problems we've been complaining about. Here's what's different, and I'm going to break this down in a way that actually makes sense without getting too nerdy. The core innovation is something called a decoupled diffusion transformer architecture. I know that sounds like tech jargon, but stick with me because this is the key to everything. Think of it like this. Imagine you're making a movie and you have 2 specialists working together. One person is the detail artist. They're responsible for making sure every frame looks amazing, with perfect lighting, textures, and visual quality. That's the spatial layer. The other person is the motion choreographer. They're focused entirely on making sure movement looks natural, characters stay consistent across shots, and the camera work feels smooth and professional. That's the temporal layer. Traditional AI video models try to do both jobs at once, which is why they often fail at both. Seedance 1.0 separates these responsibilities, and the results are immediately obvious. No more flickering, no more characters morphing mid-scene, no more camera work that makes you seasick. But here's where it gets really impressive. The single model handles both text-to-video and image-to-video generation seamlessly. That means you can start with just a text description, or upload a reference image and have the AI build a video around it. It's like having multiple tools built into one platform. And the speed? This is where my jaw hit the floor. We're talking about generating a 5-second 1080p video in about 41 seconds. The quality speaks for itself too. Seedance 1.0 is currently ranking at the top of public benchmarks for both text-to-video and image-to-video generation, but more importantly, the output actually looks professional. We're talking true 1080p resolution with detail that holds up when you zoom in. This isn't just incremental improvement, this is a fundamental leap forward in what AI video can do. Now here's where Seedance 1.0 absolutely blows my mind, and why I think this is the feature that changes everything: native multi-shot storytelling. Let me explain what this means and why it's such a big deal. With traditional AI video tools, if you wanted to tell a story, you'd have to generate multiple separate clips and hope they somehow worked together. But Seedance 1.0 can generate a coherent 10-second narrative with multiple shot transitions, like going from a wide establishing shot to a close-up, all from a single prompt. And here's the kicker: it maintains character consistency and style throughout the entire sequence. This is huge for anyone trying to create narrative content. Instead of playing character roulette across multiple generations, you can actually plan and execute cinematic sequences that tell a cohesive story. The technical wizardry behind this involves something called cross-shot semantic binding and style anchoring. But what that means practically is that the AI understands your character needs to be the same person in shot 1 and shot 2, and the overall visual style needs to remain consistent. I tested this with a prompt about a detective investigating a crime scene. The AI generated a sequence that started with a wide shot of the detective entering a room, then smoothly transitioned to a close-up of their face as they noticed a clue, then cut to a detail shot of what they were looking at. Same character, consistent lighting, professional shot composition, all from one prompt. This completely changes the pre-production workflow for filmmakers and content creators. Instead of storyboarding dozens of individual shots and hoping they'll work together, you can actually describe your vision and get a coherent sequence that flows naturally. But it's not just about storytelling. The level of cinematic control is unprecedented. You can specify complex camera movements, dolly shots, pans, tilts, zooms, tracking shots, even orbital camera movements. You can describe character emotions, specific actions, lighting conditions, and visual style. The prompt adherence is incredibly precise too. When you ask for something specific, you actually get it, instead of a loose interpretation that kind of resembles what you wanted. Alright, let's get practical. How do you actually get your hands on this and start creating? First, access. You can find Seedance 1.0 at seed.bytedance.com/Seedance or seedance/ai.com. The pricing is actually pretty reasonable, especially considering what you're getting. This isn't enterprise-only pricing. It's accessible enough that independent creators can actually afford to experiment and create. Now let's talk about prompting, because this is where a lot of people trip up with AI video tools. Seedance 1.0 responds really well to precise, structured prompts with clear transition words. Notice how I'm being specific about the setting, the character, the mood, and then explicitly calling out the shot transition with cut to. This gives the AI clear guidance on both the visual elements and the narrative structure. The generation process itself is straightforward. You input your prompt, hit generate, and in about 40 seconds you've got your clip. But here's where the real workflow magic happens, because it's so fast, you can actually iterate creatively. Don't like how a character looks? Refine your prompt and try again. Want a different camera angle? Generate a variation. The speed makes experimentation actually feasible. Now let's be realistic about current limitations. Seedance 1.0 doesn't generate audio natively, so you'll need to add your soundtrack, sound effects, and dialogue in post. It also doesn't have built-in editing tools, so you want to bring your clips into your favorite video editor for final assembly. But honestly, that's fine. Professional workflows have always involved multiple tools, and having this level of video generation capability as one component of your toolkit is incredibly powerful. Here's what I think is really exciting about where we are right now. We've crossed a threshold. AI video generation has moved from interesting experiment to legitimate production tool. For independent filmmakers and content creators, this levels the playing field in ways we haven't seen before. You don't need a crew, expensive camera equipment, or elaborate sets to create professional-looking cinematic content. You need creativity, vision, and the ability to craft effective prompts. But this isn't just for people who can't afford traditional production. Even experienced filmmakers can use this for rapid prototyping, pre-visualization, or creating content that would be too expensive or dangerous to shoot practically. The speed factor changes everything too. Creative Iterative iteration becomes actually feasible when you can generate and review ideas in minutes instead of days or weeks. And we're just getting started. ByteDance has already hinted at upcoming features like mimic motion for more precise animation control and 4K resolution output. We're looking at a future where AI video tools become integrated, modular components of comprehensive production suites. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comment section.